What's going on, you guys? Steve Atlas, Sports Kinesiologist. This is Training Tip Tuesdays. Got a lot of requests for tutorials on the splits, how I train them, what kind of things to look out for, what kind of things to do notations on. So let's start with what you're seeing right now. This is my slider board. Commonly, these are used for indoor skating. If you're an ice skater and you need some stationary space, but you don't have an ice rink, this is kind of what you do. I'm just wearing my socks on this surface. So it accommodates, what it achieves effectively is it accommodates a certain measure of mobilization within flexibility. I can actually slide very effectively with this. Now what you'll see in this lateral split variation is a few different attempts that I go down, and each time I go down, I'm always mobilizing. You'll always see me contract at the quads and then unlocking that contraction. I come back up into this front bend. I push myself using my arms into the front bend position. Now, you can use blocks, you can use dumbbells to help yourself push yourself back up. Like if it's too hard of a reach to go with your hands all the way to the floor, you can actually use something underneath your hands to push yourself back up. This is simply one of the ways and methods that I like to train my lateral splits. Again, a little bit deeper each time. You can see how I mobilize my feet. My quads will lock and unlock sporadically throughout. This is my rest position. When I come up into this position, I'm actually resting the inguinal adductor muscles in the body and allowing my hamstrings to get their stretch. So it is a little bit of a different feel by doing it this way. Training flexibility is not the same as going through some passive stretch. We are talking about the method of repeating a stretch again and again with the goal to go a little bit deeper than you did in the previous attempt. Now, your body may or may not be more compliant. It may have some difficulties in the morphology piece. It may have some other past injuries that is going to prevent you. And so you have to take all of these things into consideration when you are looking at the total success of how this is going to play out for you. And so I take a lot of time in my preparation here, going back and forth. Working the flexibility of the adductors is something that I do slow and methodically. We're going to address the front splits after these next couple of regular pancake or lateral split coming all the way down. I use a lot of time so that my tissue can adapt. And I like to roll over the axis point. So what you'll see is I'll go to my elbows, and that allows me to bring my hips up slightly as I roll the body position a little bit forward, and it gets into the stretch a little bit deeper. Now, you may or may not be able to do this. Some people, for flexibility purposes, a lot of people, there's plenty of people. I don't even come close to, a contortionistic level of flexibility. I just try to work within the flexibility and the means that my body is going to give me for the servicing of what it is that I need for my performing another acrobatic interest. So we switch from that, and then we go here into the regular front to back split. With my right foot forward, I'm using here, you can see me using the dumbbells so that I have a little extra height. Sometimes going all the way to the floor, like some people can't get as low as they would like. But again, that's up to you. You need to find out what your starting point is. It may be all the way to the floor. It may be using a set of yoga blocks or a set of dumbbells like what you see me using here. This is my first attempt, so I'm not trying to go all the way down. Part of my method is really learning how to listen to your body and allowing the process to work for you, which means, quite simply, you're not going to go as deep as you can all at once without preparing your body and having those tissues warmed up. Guys, at my stage in life, I got to tell you, once upon a time, I would just go all the way, hit the throttle, and go deep as I can. And now I'm a lot more, I would like to say, wizened in terms of listening to the body and how it's going to respond. So I do a series of repetition so that those tissues are actually going to be cooperative. you'll see me move within the flexed or the stretched position. And this, again, this little mobilization piece is very important. Now, my right leg, the one that you see forward here, it's not as flexible as my left. This is very common. Most people have one leg that has more flexibility than the left. And as long as the flexibility isn't too disparagingly different, some people have significant flexibility issues, and that can lead to low back issues, sacroiliac joint dysfunctions, and a host of other things that compensate through the kinetic chain. You want to be really careful of that. So going through, though, you'll see I go a little bit deeper each time when I'm going into these flexibility components of the split. I love how the board, it allows me to simply slide into the desired position here. Now, I am trying my best to keep my hips square to the floor, which is not always easy to do. You got to be aware of that, because that back leg, naturally it will want to, if you're not training it, it will want to splay out to the side, and you want to prevent yourself from doing that rotated foot coming out to the side. You want to be really careful in order to keep your hips as square as you can. Otherwise, you will have some hip issues later down the road. It really is not even a question of if, it's more of a question of when, particularly when you are training the splits and you're going deep, okay? So in the Atlas method, I do a 5-time rotation. You'll see me go, my first attempt in the Atlas method will be about 70%. The second attempt on each leg will be about 75 to 80% of my depth. The third attempt is about the 85. The fourth attempt is around that 90, low 90 percentile. All right, 90, 94% sub-max effort. And then, of course, the fifth attempt is usually the one of the deeper ones that I will do, coming into that 100%. Now, the thing is, that 100%, your deepest stretch for the day, is something, and this is a really important key part, it's something I don't want you to try to expect to replicate every single day, because your body's always changing. You know, having a certain amount of sleep, whether your body and your tendons are dehydrated or they're fully hydrated, there's a number of nuanced things that can contribute. Temperature is another one, how many sets you've done, how fatigued or how recharged your legs. All these things play a role when it comes to the totality of how much you're going to have in training your flexibility. Now in this set, I think this is probably my fourth set. I have my left heel slightly elevated here on the edge of the board. I have a little bit more range on my left side as I do that on my right. But I'm listening to my body the whole time. I'm not trying to take anything more than what it's going to give me in return for the moment, not even for the day, because, you know, there's been times where I'll stretch throughout the day and I'm like, I come back in the evening, I stretch out, I'm like, gosh, I feel tight all over again. And so it's pretty unforgiving at times. Flexibility, training your flexibility, training your split, it is a constant work. You have to always be stretching. You have to always be working your flexibility. It's not something you can do 3 times a week and really have effective flexibility. You look at your gymnasts, you look at your dancers, you look at your martial artists, the people that usually exemplify a high level of flexibility, and they all have one thing in common. And effectively, they train their flexibility you know, on a very regular basis to keep that range and to continue to go up. My last set here, I have my foot elevated slightly, slight oversplit here on my left side, which I was never able to do an oversplit until the last couple of months. Well, I felt pretty good about doing this. Now I can't go this deep on my right side. Only on my left side can I actually acquire this depth. So I hope that you enjoyed this clip. I hope that you got something out of it. And I'll see you next Tuesday for the next video.